The House of Wisdom, when Islam lit the lamp of knowledge, while Europe stumbled in darkness. The Islamic world during Europe's medieval period was the undisputed center of human learning and innovation. Scientific, tolerant, and absolutely revolutionary in its approach to knowledge, Islamic civilization preserved the wisdom of antiquity while pushing the boundaries of what humanity could understand and achieve. With universities that attracted scholars from 3 continents, medical schools that performed surgeries Europeans couldn't imagine, and mathematical innovations that laid the foundation for modern science, medieval Islam created a golden age of intellectual achievement that wouldn't be matched in the West for centuries. This is the story of a civilization that made knowledge sacred, only to discover that political fragmentation could destroy even the most brilliant intellectual achievements. The foundation of Islamic intellectual supremacy rested on a revolutionary principle that transformed how humans approached learning: the belief that seeking knowledge was a religious duty. The Prophet Muhammad's declaration that the ink of scholars is more sacred than the blood of martyrs created a culture where intellectual achievement was literally considered worship. This fusion of faith and reason produced scholars who saw no conflict between religious devotion and scientific inquiry, leading to breakthroughs that combined rigorous methodology with spiritual purpose. The House of Wisdom in Baghdad exemplified this intellectual revolution. Established by the Abbasid Caliph al-Ma'mun in the 9th century, it functioned as the world's first true research university, where scholars from across the known world collaborated on projects that pushed the boundaries of human knowledge. Greek texts were translated and improved upon. Persian wisdom was preserved and expanded, and Indian mathematical concepts were refined and developed. The House of Wisdom wasn't just a library but an active research institution where observation, experimentation, and debate created new understanding of the natural world. Islamic mathematical achievements transformed how humans understood numbers and calculation. Al-Khwarizmi's development of algebra created an entirely new branch of mathematics, while his work on Hindu-Arabic numerals introduced the decimal system to the Islamic world and eventually to Europe. The word algorithm derives from his name, reflecting his fundamental contributions to mathematical methodology. Islamic mathematicians developed trigonometry, advanced geometry, and early concepts of calculus centuries before European scholars encountered these ideas. The sophistication of Islamic astronomy was equally remarkable. Scholars like al-Battani produced star catalogs more accurate than those of ancient Greek astronomers, while al-Biruni calculated the Earth's circumference with precision that wouldn't be improved upon for centuries. Islamic astronomers built sophisticated observatories equipped with precision instruments that enabled them to track celestial movements and predict eclipses with remarkable accuracy. Their astronomical tables were so superior that European navigators continued using them long after the Islamic Golden Age had ended. Islamic medicine achieved levels of sophistication that made European medical practice seem primitive by comparison. Al-Razi distinguished between smallpox and measles, wrote comprehensive medical texts that remain standard references for centuries, and established the first hospital with medical schools attached. Ibn Sina's Canon of Medicine systematically organized all known medical knowledge and introduced diagnostic techniques that form the basis of modern clinical practice. Islamic surgical techniques were particularly advanced. Al-Zahrawi performed complex operations including cataract surgery, kidney stone removal, and even primitive forms of plastic surgery. His surgical instruments, many of which he invented himself, were so well designed that modern versions remain virtually unchanged. Islamic hospitals featured separate wards for different conditions, pharmacies that prepared medications according to precise formulas, and medical libraries where physicians could research treatment options. The scientific method, as we understand it today, was largely developed by Islamic scholars who emphasized observation and experimentation over theoretical speculation. Ibn al-Haytham, known in the West as al-Hazan, pioneered experimental methodology in optics and physics, conducting controlled experiments that established fundamental principles of scientific inquiry. His work on light, vision, and the behavior of lenses laid groundwork for later European developments in astronomy and navigation. Islamic engineering achievements demonstrated practical application of theoretical knowledge in ways that transformed daily life. The Qanat system of underground irrigation channels enabled agriculture in arid regions, supporting urban populations that shouldn't have been sustainable in desert environments. Islamic engineers perfected mechanical devices, including water clocks, automatic fountains, and precision instruments that seemed almost magical to European visitors. The governmental systems that supported these intellectual achievements were remarkably sophisticated and administratively efficient. The Abbasid Caliphate developed bureaucratic structures that managed territories spanning from Spain to Central Asia, with standardized legal codes, efficient communication systems, and administrative practices that enabled effective governance across vast distances and diverse populations. Islamic law, or Sharia, provided frameworks for everything from commercial transactions to diplomatic relations, creating stability that facilitated trade and cultural exchange. The concept of ijma, meaning consensus, allowed Islamic legal systems to adapt to new circumstances while maintaining continuity with established principles. This flexibility enabled Islamic civilization to integrate diverse cultures and traditions while maintaining social cohesion. Trade networks controlled by Islamic merchants connected Europe, Asia, and Africa in commercial relationships that facilitated not just economic exchange, but cultural and intellectual transmission. Islamic banks provided credit, currency exchange, and investment services that enabled long-distance trade on unprecedented scales. Commercial law developed by Islamic scholars established standards for contracts, partnerships, and dispute resolution that influenced commercial practices across 3 continents. Islamic cities during this period were marvels of urban planning and architectural achievement. Cordoba, Baghdad, and Cairo feature populations exceeding anything in medieval Europe, supported by sophisticated infrastructure, including running water, waste management systems, and public facilities. Islamic architects developed distinctive styles that combined aesthetic beauty with functional efficiency, creating buildings that were both monuments to faith and practical spaces for community life. The role of women in Islamic society during this period was complex and varied significantly across different regions and social classes. While legal frameworks generally favored male authority, many women achieved considerable influence as scholars, poets, merchants, and even rulers. Fatima al-Fihri founded the University of Al-Qarawiyyin in Morocco, while Razia Sultana ruled the Delhi Sultanate with effectiveness that impressed even her political enemies. Islamic educational systems created literacy rates that far exceeded those in medieval Europe. Madrasas provided not just religious instruction, but comprehensive education in mathematics, science, literature, and law. The availability of paper, introduced from China and perfected by Islamic manufacturers, made books affordable and literacy accessible to middle-class populations that remain largely illiterate in European societies. Religious tolerance within Islamic civilization, while not universal, generally exceeded that found in medieval Europe. Christians and Jews living under Islamic rule often enjoyed greater freedom and security than religious minorities in European kingdoms. This tolerance wasn't just ethical, but practical, enabling Islamic societies to benefit from the skills and knowledge of diverse populations. The translation movement that preserved and transmitted classical knowledge was one of Islamic civilization's greatest contributions to human learning. Scholars in Baghdad, Cordoba, and other centers translated works of Aristotle, Plato, Galen, and other ancient authorities, often improving upon original texts through commentary and correction. These translations, later retranslated into Latin, provided the foundation for European intellectual revival during the later medieval period. Islamic philosophy during this period grappled with fundamental questions about the relationship between reason and faith, producing thinkers like al-Farabi, Ibn Sina, and Ibn Rushd, whose works influenced both Islamic and European intellectual development. Their synthesis of Aristotelian philosophy with Islamic theology created frameworks for understanding reality that remained influential for centuries. The tragic decline of Islamic intellectual achievement resulted from political fragmentation rather than inherent cultural limitations. As the unified caliphate broke apart into competing kingdoms and dynasties, the resources and stability that had supported scholarly activity diminished. The Mongol destruction of Baghdad in 1258 symbolized the end of an era when Islamic civilization had led the world in virtually every field of human endeavor. Yet the legacy of medieval Islamic civilization extends far beyond its own historical period. European universities were modeled on Islamic institutions, European scholars built upon Islamic scientific achievements, and European commercial practices adopted methods developed by Islamic merchants. The decimal number system, algebra, advanced medicine, and experimental science all reached Europe through Islamic transmission. The Islamic Golden Age demonstrates that intellectual achievement flourishes when societies value learning, tolerance, and systematic inquiry over dogma and prejudice. Medieval Islam's combination of religious devotion with rational investigation created conditions where human knowledge could advance rapidly and substantially, proving that faith and reason need not be enemies. This was the Golden Age of Islam, when Baghdad was the world's brightest beacon of learning. In our next episode, we'll journey east to India, the land of zero, steel, and the spice routes that connected empires. So tell me, what amazes you most about the Islamic Golden Age? Its medicine, its astronomy, or its philosophy? Drop your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to subscribe for more hidden medieval history.